Welcome in, and we are here yet for another game review. And this time I'm going to talk about the 5 good and 5 bad things that I found in Unravel. Be aware guys, this video might contain spoilers. Unravel is a puzzle platformer game, and it was created by the Swedish indie game studio called Coldwood Interactive, and it was published by Electronic Arts. The game was released on February 2016 for PS4, Xbox One, and Microsoft Windows. The game is talking about Yarny, a little creature made out of yarn. Yarny is located in some old woman's house. At the beginning scene of the game, you can see the old woman going up the stairs with a basket full of yarn balls. One of those balls fell off the basket and landed on the first floor. Out of that ball, Yarny popped up and started walking. As he stood on the table in the living room, Yarny found a memory book. And when he opened the memory book, it seemed like all of the details inside the book are missing or blurred. Then Yarny goes on a quest to retrieve those memories. The story of the game is pretty interesting and very emotional, but not necessarily good or bad. Unravel 2 has been released on June 2018, but we will not talk about it in this video. For this, we will have another one. So let's jump right into the list of the 10 good and bad things that I found in Unravel. We will start with the 5 good things. Number 1. Graphics. At the beginning of the game, there is a cutscene where the player sees the old lady and Yarny. The modeling of the character as well as the environment is so well done that I was very surprised by it, and that's because I didn't expect that level of details in an indie game. Although there are some differences between the cutscenes and the game itself, as it usually have, the game still looks amazing during the gameplay. Coldwood Interactive delivered such an amazing work in terms of graphics that I wasn't surprised that the critic thought so as well. Number 2. Environment. The game is a level-based game, which means that after the player finishes a level, the next one will be unlocked for play. Each level has its own unique environment and design. Some levels are in the woods and some are in a factory. Some levels are in the summer and some are in the winter. The environmental elements in each level is very detailed and very clear. And when I say clear, I mean that even in the dark parts, it is still clear enough to see the environment and its features. The animals that are shown in some of the levels are very high detailed and also very beautiful. Number 3. Puzzles. This is a puzzle game, so of course that I will talk about the puzzles. The puzzles in this game are sophisticated and challenging. Although this is not the hardest puzzle game that I've ever played, it was still challenging enough to enjoy it. The player can use the yarn in several ways to solve these puzzles and to move forward in the game. The player can also use the yarn to pull things, tie obstacles, swing from high points, and even create certain bridges and trampolines. With those bridges, the player can move obstacles from one platform to the other one, usually to a higher platform. The trampolines are helping the player to jump higher in order to get to a higher point. Number 4. Accuracy. Yarny is made of yarn, and that yarn is attached to a certain point, which means that as the player moves on with Yarny, the yarn is gradually released from Yarny's body until Yarny can no longer move forward. In those cases, there is a pile of yarn somewhere nearby so that Yarny could restock the yarn on his body. When I'm talking about accuracy, I actually talk about the moment when Yarny can no longer continue without restocking the yarn. I found it very interesting as to it constantly changing in some ways. For examples, there are some moments where Yarny can't go one more step when he gets to the pile of yarn. But there are some moments where Yarny can go much farther, but not far enough to continue to the next phase, which leads the players to go back and try to figure out what to do. Number 5. Challenging. Earlier in this video, I said that the game is challenging, so let's get into it a bit more. The puzzles can be complicated sometimes, and sometimes very simple. There are some parts where the player really needs to observe the environment very strictly in order to find a solution. Sometimes, the player needs to do that while timing certain movements. Some of the puzzles really challenge me to think outside of the box. For example, there is a stage fairly at the beginning where I struggled to find the correct solution. The same thing even happened to me in my second playthrough as well. But maybe just me though.
A quick stop for a second, guys. If you do like this content, please consider to leave a comment and subscribe.
The 5 bad things. Number 1. Music. The music of the game is very good. It's been composed and merged perfectly with the environment of the game. So why did I put it on the list of the bad things? Well, that's because of the fact that it's very repetitive. When a person plays a puzzle game, there might be a chance for them to get stuck at some point for a while. And that's the moment where the player really starts to realize that they are listening to the same tune again and again. In addition to that, some levels are longer than the others. But even then, there is rarely any changes in rhythm. I will also say that each level has its own music. Number 2. Writings. After every level that the player finishes, a memory is added to the memory book. The memory is represented by a few words and a few pictures. And at the end of the game, the book is complete. The writings in the book are made from cursive sentences, which is basically a regular thing that many people know, and even makes sense in some way. But not many people around the world can understand that kind of writing, and many people probably skip this part because they didn't want to bother with trying to read it. I think that it hurts the story of the game for some people. I also think that the developers should have used a different and more understandable writing system. Number 3. Story. The story of the game is told by the memories, as I mentioned earlier in this video. In general, the story is about an old lady and her life's experience. There are happy and sad moments, and every part is represented respectfully good by the environment and the music, but not by the story itself. Although the story is beautiful, I think that it's not entirely understandable. Some of the elements are really easy to miss. And in addition to the writing being in cursive sentences, what's written in the memory book is saying all kinds of general statements, which doesn't reflect much of the story. Number 4. PC version tutorial. The buttons to do certain activities are being easily taught in the console's versions of a game, but not on the PC version for some reason. No matter if the player plays it with mouse and keyboard or with a controller, the game shows the words button number 0, button number 1, etc, etc. I don't entirely understand why Did Coldwood Interactive chose to approach this issue that way, but I get that it doesn't matter much anymore. But still, it's very inconvenient. Number 5. Main room exploration. The main room is where the memory book is located. In this room, the player can move freely, and that is how the player also moves between the levels. There are quite a few things to do in this room other than moving between levels, but I couldn't find anything worth trying to look up. Let me elaborate a bit. There are a few possible places to go in the room which are a bit far from the places that the player needs to be. But reaching to those places gives the player nothing special or nothing at all. I think that it's something that this game shouldn't have. And that was the list. In conclusion, Unravel is a fun puzzle game. It's a very beautiful game, and it also has a beautiful music in it, even though it's repetitive. The creativity of the game is wonderful as well. If you would decide to try and play this game, I would suggest that you won't try to explore the main room. And if you can't read cursive writing well, don't try and read the book. It's not really worth the struggle.
If you play this game, please consider to leave a comment below and tell me what do you think about it. And that's all for the video. Thank you so much for staying here up until now. You are amazing, and I'll see you next time.